Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here. In what has felt like forever, FPL is now finally back. We are into the last 7 game weeks of the season, and right now in Game Week 32, there's lots to discuss in terms of chip strategies. Are we going to use the wildcard this week, or are we going to delay it for some other chip strategies? Even if you're on a wildcard, what players do you go for? How does the draft look like now in 32 as compared to maybe 35 later on? So many things to discuss. Lots of things to unpack. It's good to be back after such a long break. I hope you guys had a good one. And today we're going to break everything down, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video as I discuss the different paths that I'm considering. I haven't locked it in yet. And yeah, if you find some use in today's video, please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well. And let's start off with how my team looks like for Game Week 32 without any transfers made. And that's also where I think is the best starting point for everyone. Because I would say now, before we even go into any chip strategy discussions, that your own chip strategy or what's best for your team is going to differ for every single person, simply because of the nature of your team that you're looking at right now, how many players you have from certain teams. If you're in different situations in terms of your transfers in hand, that also implicates things. So what I have right now in front of you is my team. I have no transfers that I carried over from before, so I only have one free transfer in 32. Not only that, there's not much money left in the bank, 0.2 million. And when I look at my team overall for Game Week 32, if I was not so pressed about having to use my bench boost pretty soon because the season is coming to an end, and obviously I want to get maximum points, so the bench boost is still in my mind as to whether I want to use it in Game Week 33, which is the biggest double of the season, or I use it in Game Week 36. So the bench boost for me is definitely going to be in either one of those weeks. But mainly when I look at Game Week 32, my team overall looks actually fine, right? I have double Arsenal defense in Raya and Gabriel, and then I have Virgil van Dijk against Fulham. I also have Malik Chow. Now, the thing with him is that he didn't start the last game that Newcastle had, but he got subbed on. I actually put the ball in the back of the net, but that was offside, if you guys remember from, a week before in the Tyneside derby. So basically, Malik Chow, I do think that he will continue to start in 32, so I'm not too worried about him. In midfield, it's Rodgers, Fernandes, Wilson, and Gordon. The only one with a slightly tougher fixture here is Wilson against Liverpool away. But even then, I'm sitting with Van Dijk still. I'm not putting it past Fulham to maybe get a goal or two against Liverpool with the way that they're defending right now. Then up front, it's Haaland, Thiago, and Ekitike. The only issue here I see is maybe Ekitike's minutes might be at risk now that Isak is back. But given that Isak is back and Liverpool is still in the Champions League, I do think that for Game Week 32, depending on how many minutes Isak gets as well, he probably rests over the weekend against Fulham so that they could field him again against PSG the following week, following midweek, right? So I still do think like for 32 specifically, Ekitike should be fine. That would obviously come down to, again, as I say, how many minutes that both of them get in the Champions League, which by the time you're watching this, maybe the game would have already been over. But yeah, so point is to say that for Game Week 32, my team looks pretty much okay, right? And if I go off of this basis and I don't want to wildcard, because later on when I show you guys the wildcard 32 draft that I have, it just does not look great. But that's just the nature of wildcarding now in Game Week 32. The nature of a wildcard is just that you have to bear in mind that you're setting up for a bench boost in 33 and you would be loaded with your Game Week 33 doublers in your wildcard 32. And the issue with that is that a lot of the teams doubling in 33 don't have a good fixture in 32. And you'll see later on that my team right now without wildcard is so much better than my team when I wildcard. So it's a bit of a dilemma, and I think some of you guys are also in a similar spot where you don't really know whether to use a chip or not, because honestly speaking, there is quite a disparity. So we'll speak more about that strategy later on when I cover that. But I want to share the first path that I have. So the first path is if I don't use the wildcard in 32, right? So I stick with this team. I don't make any transfers. What you see is what you get on screen. I probably just captain. I maybe won't captain Haaland against Chelsea. I might captain Bruno Fernandes still against Leeds, right? And then we go to Game Week 33. This is when As you can see already, I've loaded in a free hit chip. Now, if I don't wildcard in Gameweek 32, I definitely need to use a chip in Gameweek 33 because I don't have enough doublers in my team. And the only way that I'm going to get so many doublers in right away is either if I wildcard or if I free hit. And the issue with wildcarding in Gameweek 33 is that then I wouldn't be able to wildcard just before I bench boost, because if I wildcard in 33, it means that I'm bench boosting in 36, and that also means that I won't be able to wildcard in 35. So I don't want that. So the next best way is to free hit in 33 and bring in 11 doublers in the starting 11. And as you can see on the bench, there's also a good number of doublers to come in if, for example, some of the players in the starting 11 miss out. Right. So as it stands right now, the plan for Gameweek 33, based on this path, is a free hit 33 strat. And yeah, I mean, the draft is as it stands, right? Like lots of doublers here. I go triple Chelsea in Cucurella, Palmer, and João Pedro. I have triple Man City in O'Reilly, Semenyo, Haaland. I also have double Leeds, Calvert-Lewin and Darlow. And then after that, I also have double Bournemouth in Tavernier and Senesi. Right on the bench is just Verbruggen, Minte, Brighton, also another team that doubles in 33. But the fixtures are not as good, especially from a defensive standpoint. And there's also not a lot of good attackers to go for. There is actually Danny Welbeck, but I much prefer João Pedro and Calvert-Lewin over him. Right. So in terms of a free hit for 33, this is how it could look like. Then going back to Gameweek 34 then, because after the free hit, in Gameweek 34, I'll be stuck with my original team. And the plan is to make 2 transfers here to take Malik Chow, as you see, out of the squad and bring Tarkowski in, and also take Haaland out of the squad and bring Bowen in. So I've already made those 2 transfers with the 2 free transfers that I would have in Gameweek 34. Going along this strategy, as I say again, lots of money in the bank because I just sold Haaland, and that would be to buy him back in Gameweek 35 when I wildcard. So in 34, after those 2 transfers of Tarkowski and Bowen, the squad will look something like this. Again, it looks pretty much fine, right? So in essence, I do feel like this is a viable path for my team to take. And then, wildcard in 35 would look something like this. So triple Arsenal defense in Raya, Gabriel and Saliba. I have triple Man City as well. This is obviously to set up for the double for Man City and Crystal Palace that would likely come in Gameweek 36. That's when I would bench boost based on this strategy. And if just for easy reference as I'm speaking here, the strategy is actually at the top right here. Free hit 33, wildcard 35, and bench boost 36. Right, so yeah, triple Crystal Palace as well in setting up for the bench boost in 36. So Sarr, Richards, and Munoz, who are on the bench for the time being. And yes, a couple of other side players like Fernandes that's still going to be here even though he plays Liverpool. I probably will captain Haaland this week, right? And then, yeah, your usual suspects of, João Pedro still being in here. Rodgers is mainly to cover the Burnley fixture that Aston Villa have in Gameweek 36. There's Calvert-Lewin and Darlow also in the team here, right? Calvert-Lewin here has Burnley. On the bench is actually Dewsbury Hall, who's a bit cheaper and enables the team to look the way it looks, right? So with Gameweek 35 wildcard, the plan is really to just set up for a bench boost in 36, and this is how the bench would look like. It'll be Darlow, Dewsbury Hall, and double Crystal Palace in Munoz and Richards. But honestly, if I set it up well, and if I set it up properly, you'll probably be looking at something like a Calvert-Lewin bench. So the bench would realistically be looking something like this, right? Darlow, João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin, and Dewsbury Hall. Doesn't look like the best bench boost, I'll also admit that, but this is one path. And what this allows me then to do is in Gameweek 35, right, which is when Arsenal actually do have a really good run, right? They will clear all their difficult fixtures by Gameweek 34, and thereafter from Gameweek 35 onwards, the fixtures are so good. That's also another benefit of the wildcard in 35. Not just that I get set up for the bench boost in 36, but also that I get triple Arsenal ready, and that's something that I would say those who are wildcarding in 32 would not be able to get to easily, because it doesn't really make sense for you to have that many Arsenal players in your wildcard 32 draft. If, again, you have lots of free transfers, then maybe this is not an issue for you. because you can wildcard in 32, and by the time Gameweek 35 comes around, use all your free transfers to bring in those Arsenal players for their good fixtures. So again, very team dependent, but for my team, you see the dilemma that I have here and what this strategy enables me to do, right? So as I've mentioned, what this strategy is a free hit 33, wildcard 35, bench boost 36, right? So the bench would look something like this. Now, when I go over to the other strategy, let me load up the other strategy, which is a wildcard 32. So instantly you see here that the team actually for Gameweek 32 on a wildcard specifically just does not look very, very good in 32 itself, right? You have triple Man City against Chelsea. I mean, you could say that Chelsea are leaking goals right now, so maybe O'Reilly, Semenyo, and Haaland are good assets to own, fair enough. But you'll have Palmer and João Pedro that you must have in the team because they both double in 33 that are playing Man City. So already, pretty much, have Palmer and João Pedro playing against your O'Reillys, your Semenyo, your Haaland. Then, as for the other players here, one of the good things is that you can get your Brighton assets in for the Burnley game here, even though it's away from home. I have Verbruggen and Van Heck as a double Brighton defense. I also have Minte in midfield. I have Bruno Fernandes still, right? Not going to sell him on a wildcard for sure. And he's actually, in fact, the only single game week player that I will have if I wildcard in 32 and bench boost in 33. And Calvert-Lewin against Manchester United is not ideal, but Leeds are another team that double in 33, so you have to have him. And then Senesi here, again, similar to Calvert-Lewin, is just mainly to have him ready for 33 bench boost. So really, the fixtures specifically for Game 32 in terms of the starting 11 don't look great. So going over to 33 now, this is when I would bench boost. And specifically this week, the way I've set up the wildcard is mainly so that I can just maximize the number of fixtures that I will get from all my players. I think there is a bit of a different strategy that you can take with this. Instead of maximizing all the doublers, you can try to play safe and try to, as I've mentioned, have a few Arsenal players in here, maybe even Crystal Palace players in here to prepare for the future game weeks. That is, I would say, a more conservative strategy, something that I could consider because I'm in a position where I don't have a lot of transfers and I need to do some form of future planning. But that said, I also don't feel very good about it that I am taking this strategy and yet trying to, plan for the future such that right now in 33, I would not be able to maximize the number of fixtures. I would be making a compromise basically in terms of the expected points that I can get right now, right in front of me. So I decided that if I go on this strategy, which is a wildcard 32, bench boost 33, and free hit 34 strat, I probably would just go all out, right? And go for these, 14 doublers here, maximize the fixtures in 33, have the draft in 32, the wildcard looking something like this, and then come game week 34, I would be free hitting. So I haven't put up a draft here because the point is to say that I would have pretty much no players in 34 that have fixtures other than Bruno Fernandes, but that's just the way that this strategy was set up. So I'll be free hitting this week. I'll come up with the draft later on, but the point is to say that this week there will be the free hit used. And then in game week 35, I would get my original squad again with 2 free transfers here. And this is when I would try to start to bring in the likes of your Crystal Palace players because they would double in 36. I would also think about bringing in some Arsenal players here. But you see that there's only 2 free transfers, right? So probably some compromise has to be made. I don't think I can get to triple Arsenal and also triple Crystal Palace by the time Game Week 35 comes around here because there's just simply not enough transfers. Doesn't make sense to take so many hits as well. And then in Game Week 36, when Crystal Palace would have the double here, this is when also I need to just factor in. So total is pretty much 3 transfers to bring in Arsenal players and Crystal Palace players. That would be how I would use those transfers if I go on this strategy. So coming back here now to the Wildcard 32 draft, which is pretty much what most of you guys are here for, I would say that I'm actually, it's cliche, but I'm actually 50-50 on either strategies because I see pros and cons, right, for for the different paths that I can actually take. So I hope that in this video, I managed to kind of articulate what I'm considering with respect to each of these strategies, each of these paths, some of the players that I have here that I'm also considering having, whether I am on a wildcard 32, or if I'm not, then how does my free hit 33 look like as well. So pretty much rambled quite a bit, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please do drop a like. Please do subscribe as well. I don't think there'll be another video out before the deadline. And I also think that I will have to stream slightly earlier this week. I don't think there'll be a deadline stream just before the deadline. Yeah, I probably have to do it a day or two before because I will be traveling over the weekend. So yeah, keep a lookout for the scheduled stream that I will put out. If not, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and I will catch you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye.